Real-time crime centers have become a cornerstone of modern policing, helping agencies connect information faster, improve coordination, and make smarter decisions when seconds matter most. But building or refreshing a center can be complex. Constant Technologies helps simplify the process. Constant has partnered with law enforcement agencies across the country to plan, design, and build real-time crime centers, communication centers, drone operation rooms, and emergency operations centers, spaces that are purpose-built to support today's public safety missions. From American-built operator consoles to advanced video wall systems, we focus on the physical environment and technology infrastructure that brings your data and teams together. Our experienced design team works closely with your agency to create layouts and plans that support current operations and future growth. The result is a command environment where video communications and collaboration come together, helping your team move from reactive to proactive policing. Learn more at constanttech.com and schedule a complimentary design consultation. To get started, contact my friend, Lieutenant Sean Arthur, retired from the Collier County Sheriff's Office, at 239-469-4901. Welcome to The Tactical Pause, the official podcast of the Florida Deputy Sheriff's Association. I'm John Creamer, Deputy Executive Director of FDSA. Each episode, I sit down with law enforcement thought leaders to tackle critical issues shaping the future of public safety. Together, we'll explore key topics that empower law enforcement professionals to navigate challenges, lead with confidence, and advance their careers. Take a pause, gain valuable insights, and lead your career with purpose. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to A Tactical Pause, the podcast where we explore leadership, wellness, innovation, and the challenges facing those who serve our communities every day. I'm your host, John Creamer, Deputy Executive Director of the Florida Deputy Sheriff's Association. Today, we're joined by someone who has built a career at the intersection of public safety, communication, and technology. Anthony Seguin is a fire captain, paramedic, speaker, communication strategist, and entrepreneur who believes technology works best when it strengthens human connection and helps agencies better serve their communities. He's also a friend of mine. Anthony, welcome to A Tactical Pause.
Thanks, John. That's a great introduction. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I'm glad to have you.
I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. It's a long time discussion about the podcast and listening to you interview other people and talk with them, and I'm excited.
Yeah, and as we go through this, our listeners will know how we know each other in a minute, and what just a good, genuine human being you are. And it's I'm glad to be your friend. So
I couldn't imagine a better friend than you, John.
Well, you ready? Here we go. Let me start how you got into the fire service. Where'd that come from?
How I got into the fire service. All right. So I went to college at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville. I have a bachelor's degree in fine art photography, of all things. Got into college and was trying to find a path and kind of fell into photography. I like to say that she was then my girlfriend, but my now wife was taking a black and white photography class in college as well. I kind of got to see the dark room a little bit and kind of started gravitating towards that. And towards the end of my 4 years at college, everybody falls into it some way or another, I guess. But as a young kid, I was excited about the fire department. I had one that was across the street, so maybe subliminally, it was always my path. But I met a firefighter in Jacksonville at a surf shop, of all places. And I was working with a shaper there to build a surfboard. And he came in, he's like, "What are you going to do when you graduate?" And I was like, "Man, I'm starting my own commercial business, photography business, but I'm also looking into some public safety things and routes and careers in that direction." My neighbor, who is my goddaughter's father, was in the Navy. So I was looking into the Navy. I was looking into some military. I was looking into the FBI at the time. And I considered the fire department. And he goes, "Well, man, you should join the fire department." I said, "Tell me more." Because I had never really met anybody that was like, "Hey, here's a career path for you." And so when we got to talking, he's like, "Hey, you work 1 day on, 2 days off. So you only work every third day." And I was like, "That's pretty awesome. What other job can do that?" And then he started talking a little bit about pension. He started talking a little bit about the benefits. But more importantly, he started talking about, service to the community and giving back in that capacity. And I think that's what really got me excited about taking that step. So I graduated college, got my EMT certification and my fire certification right away. And I was hired probably within 3 to 5 months after completing that coursework.
Side note question. Some of our listeners know my dad was a firefighter. So, two offshoot questions for you. Anybody in your family in the fire service?
No, first generation.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Secondly, it seems to be the norm these days that if you're going to get hired as a firefighter, you have to be an EMT or a paramedic as well. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So at a minimum, you have to be a firefighter EMT, and that most departments in the state of Florida will prefer a paramedic certification now because we're all advanced life support. So in Florida, we tend to, it's a fire-based EMS service. So I would say probably 98% of the state is fire-based EMS. So they're looking to be ALS on both ambulances and on fire engines or ladder trucks.
And tell our listeners what ALS is.
Advanced life support. So
Okay.
anything from, it's paramedicine. So we can field diagnose and treat utilizing medicine, just kind of like a doctor does in a hospital. We just do it in a pre-hospital setting.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up because, my dad's generation he started in 66. He didn't become an ENT until maybe 2 years before he retired. And he was so proud of that. And so it's a big deal. So, all right.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of coursework.
Yeah, it's a lot and then there's a lot of practicals too, right? Where you're riding on an ambulance and in the ER and things like that.
Yeah, you do practicals through the hospital on ambulances, and then you can get certified and take a state test.
Okay, and then you're living a stereotype, Anthony, and the stereotype goes with firefighters and big mustaches. And like you said, having a dad that periodically would grow a big Sam Elliott mustache. What's going on, man? What's up?
Well, it started out as a bet with my wife after a vacation, and had to shave my beard off. Usually I'll take, a firefighter, right? We get a great schedule. So I would take the month of July and kind of go on vacation with the family, reset, mentally, physically, emotionally with the family. And I was like, you know what? I'm keeping the mustache. She's like, no. And I was like, casually was like, bet. And it started out with just, normal mustache, no curls, no handlebars. And then it went to chops. And then one day I just started letting it get long and it started curling on its own.
Yeah.
And I didn't put any wax in this today. I should have, because it would have looked even more epic. But here I am, like 5 or 6 years later. My youngest doesn't know me without a mustache. I shaved it off one day, completely, like no hair at all. And he looked at me and goes, put it back on now.
Yeah. So for our listeners, they can see your image on the podcast. They'll be able to see that mustache. Why? Seriously, I don't know if you know the answer. Why is that part of the culture sometimes with fire services, mustaches? Do you have any idea?
Yeah. So initially, firefighters didn't have SCBAs. So an SCBA is the air pack that we use to breathe and the mask on our face. So that when firefighting first started, they wore turnout coats and rubber boots, long coats down to about their, mid calf, and then turnout boots that came up to about mid thigh to protect their body. And they would wear a helmet, but we didn't have SCBAs or a way to protect our respiratory system in fire. So they grew long mustaches, and they would grow it actually over their mouth, and that would quote unquote filter the smoke and the particles out. It didn't do much. It was just a thing. But that's what they thought back in the day. And then now we've graduated to the SCBAs. So that way we can breathe, protect our respiratory system, because today's toxins are far worse than the natural wood and fiber that was used in days past.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So like I said, having grown up in it, I never knew that. And, my dad never wore an SCBA his entire career, and he paid for it later, but he never wore one.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing. They had a couple laying around, and you were ridiculed if you put one on. So things have changed.
Yeah, it's really the opposite now. We focus on health, safety, really looking at longevity. I always ask my crews and encourage them to think, how can you make it through your career in a healthy way, in a safe way, so that you can exit the fire service. And I think you talked about this on a previous podcast, and what's next for you after your career in public safety, because I'll be 48. When I have 25 years in the retirement system, I can retire. What does the next 20 years of my life look like? I want to be able to survive and thrive more than anything.
Yeah, you want to beat the statistics, right? We really do. And you and I talk a lot offline. I mean, like I said, for our listeners, Anthony and I started off on the conference circuit and seeing each other, and then he's mentored me, I've mentored him, and a lot of it comes
Mhm.
back to personal wellness and state of mind, and fighting through the trials of life. That those waves that they don't stop coming, whether you're in the fire service or law enforcement. There's things that come outside of work. But hey, what keeps you passionate about your work today?
So I think what keeps me passionate, I've got my hands in kind of a lot of different things. Really, what keeps me passionate about the fire service is seeing the young firefighters coming in and their passion and desire to serve. Their reasoning, may be a little different than my reasoning, but I think everybody's why is different. Everybody's why, as far as why they get into public safety, is usually something personal to them. Some people have a good story, or a reason, that something that impacted them. Sometimes, it's just one of those things where you want to be a servant. Sometimes you're passionate about educating. So I think that really, as I look into what keeps me passionate in the fire service, is really that motivation to leave the fire service better than I found it, almost 18 years ago, leave my community better than I found it. And, I think really, when we talk a little bit about, the sheriff app, and we talk about some of the technology things that have come into my life, it's kind of nerdy to say, but I get to serve my community every third day. But I get to serve your community, John. I get to serve people in Miami's community, people in North Carolina, California, throughout the country, with a fingertip, with technology that will help them keep their community safe. And honestly, that gets me pumped. That really gets me pumped. So I think that's what
Yeah.
keeps me real passionate.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So for our listeners, not only you're a firefighter paramedic, you're also a supervisor. I mean, you're a captain, and I know you've been an acting division chief or battalion chief at times. So you have men and women under your command at major incidents, and then you also have women and men in your command under monotony of sometimes of boredom. And on top of that, you have a life outside of the fire service, and this is where it's also interesting. There's a lot of parallels between law enforcement and the fire service, and that is there's a lot of really unique people that are drawn to this profession that have a lot of creative thinking, creative hobbies, and things like that. So tell us some of the things you do outside. Let's start with the sheriff app. Let's just start with that for a second, because that's where I met you. Was you work for a company and you guys sell an app. What is that?
Yeah, so I want to back up one step too, because I think I've mentioned, outside of work, the most important thing to me is family.
Yeah.
My wife and I have 3 kids, so usually I'm not. I guess you can look me up on LinkedIn and you'll find just about everything out about me, on LinkedIn, and maybe a few other social profiles. But before technology and before the sheriff app, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I think that's really what is, going back to the why and what I'm passionate about. Outside of all of this, my primary focus is my family, faith, family, and everything comes typically after that, should at least. And John, you know some of the history of some things that happened in recent years that kind of realign and refocus some of those things for me. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Hang on.
the
Let's
sheriff app.
Anthony, you just brought some really good things. And look, so here's I probably disclosed too much on the podcast, but this is where you and I talked privately before. Your priorities are straight. They're right. And when I was where you are, mine were not. It was about work, period. It was about work. And really failed at being present at home. And I'm struggling to do it now. I want to be present with the people I'm with. And it's a battle because it just is sometimes. And, we've been wired for decades, not to be present, to be thinking about a threat or to be thinking about this part of work or that part of work. And I just applaud you for having the presence and peace of mind to be a good husband and a father and a friend, and in areas where I failed. It's a big deal. And I applaud you, man.
Well, I appreciate that, John. I think everybody's on a journey and a path. And when you're in this profession in public safety, I was thinking about this last week, how intentional we have to be about, coming home and turning off the fight or flight, turning off, trying to bring down the cortisol levels to a place where we're present and engaged with our family, when we're always, like you said, we're looking for a threat, or we're trying to evaluate our next steps because we have to overcome a challenge. whether that's extricating a patient out of a vehicle, whether that's you're making entry, to, I don't even know how to technically put it for law enforcement, but, you're going in, in an active shooter situation. We don't do that off duty. We don't have to. We can stop. We can let our brains do whatever, but we don't, because that's not how we're wired on duty. So I appreciate that. I think you're on the right path too. Like, yeah, all the conversations you and I have had, it's an ebb and flow, man. Like, we're gonna get there eventually. And there's some cool technology out there that we can talk about. ETMS, the transcranial magnetic stimulation. That in the state of Florida, man, there's a grant, and supposedly it's a wonderful thing. I just got signed up to do it. So,
well, let's drift down that road. So let me say this too: and the cortisol and all those things. So even after I've been out of the game, for a couple of years now, but you can't unprogram what you did for 30 years. You can't walk into a restaurant and not look for an escape. You can't walk into the gym and go, that guy's a threat. That guy's not a threat. It's so hard just to sit and be present. It's even hard to sit and be present on the couch with a loved one because how we were programmed. And for our listeners, and when I speak in person too, this is one of the things I talk about is you got to kind of unplug from the matrix. And it's really hard to do. It's very hard to do for all first responders. So let's talk about what you just talked about with that grant.
Yeah, so I met a guy named Jeff through another acquaintance from a conference, just like you, John. And he was like, hey, man, I met this guy named Jeff, and he does stuff with ETMS in Florida. It's free treatment for military veterans, police, first responders. And I probably am not the best person to really kind of speak to the technology of it, but I had to pull up their website real quick because I was like, dang, I need to brush up on this as we're doing it. But it's transcranial. It's etmsflorida.com. Echo, Tony, Mark, Sam, Florida spelled out.com. And basically transcranial, it's a neurophysical way to treat. Well, they're not going to, you got to be careful about how you advertise it, I guess, but it'll help you perform better, sleep better. Some of the things you and I, John, talk about, the side effects of working in this career for so long, it can help some of those things potentially. So, I wanted to give it a try because I want to be the best person and the best, I want to be the best person I can on and off duty. And I'm willing to do and take whatever steps I can to be the best husband, to be the best father, to be the best firefighter, friend, citizen, those type of things. And it's safe. They're using it in the military. So why not give it a shot?
Hey, the next time you see me, which is going to be in July in Miami, right, at a conference, sir. I'll give you a report about that. I'm gonna go look in that today when we finish this session. I did some experimental research at FSU with their neuroscience, with brain spotting, because I'm with you, man. I want to be better. We backslide, and then for alphas, who most of us in first responders, males and females, are alphas because there's a sense of urgency. We got to go. And again, you got to unprogram that. And then we also bring stuff to work, right? I bring a lot of stuff to the job. I bring a lot of stuff to a relationship that's not fun for other people. And I'm sure you do too, and people you work with. So we have to strive to find those things, like you said, to be better people. So I'm glad you gave us that website, and I'll give you an update when I see you.
Yeah, I'd love to. I know there's a lot of people being treated throughout Florida, and I know Ohio has a grant as well. So those two states have a really well-funded grant program.
Yeah. So you want to go down the road of wellness, or you want to talk about some of the things you do outside of firefighting, because they kind of overlap with one another?
Yeah, they're all over the place. It's all blended, honestly. We're on wellness, so let's talk about wellness, and then we can dive into some of the other responder athlete or the sheriff app and some of that stuff.
Okay. What do you think is the most important thing for a first responder to know about wellness right now?
The most important thing to know about wellness. So I would say this: if you're starting out in public safety, and John, I think you'd agree with this, and if you don't, definitely say so. I waited way too long to go see a therapist, to talk to somebody. My wife, I have a great support network. My wife is wonderful. She listens. She's understanding if I need time or space. if she sees me fidgeting or, twitching my leg, as I often will sit down and my leg just starts going a mile a minute, she'll reach over and just try to calm me. So, but I never had anybody tell me, hey, man, you should get a therapist just to talk through some of the things that you're trying to compartmentalize, that you're just trying to file in that cabinet and get rid of until the next call that you run that is similar, and it pops back up and it all comes back to the forefront. So I would tell anybody getting into this, find a therapist in your region, your area, or online that's culturally competent, that understands what it takes to be a deputy sheriff, a police, a firefighter, an EMT, a paramedic, anything in public safety, military, and just have that base and have that person that you can go talk to. And then from there, wellness goes a million different directions,
Yeah.
fitness,
Let's stay
tactical
on the
athletes,
counselor for
those
a
kind of
second.
things.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when I started, almost every supervisor was a Vietnam vet, a combat Vietnam vet, and I was a 22-year-old kid, fresh out of college. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing now, but I didn't know what I was doing back then either. And there was no such thing as a counselor. You would be removed from service. I watched my dad struggle greatly with PTSD. He was in the Marines, and then he spent 30 years in the fire service. And back then, the firefighters were often jack of all trades. If somebody had been, I'm sorry to be graphic, if somebody had been hit and hit with a motor vehicle as they were walking, and parts of them were scattered down the highway, it was the firefighters that went out with shovels and hose and sprayed down the scene, all that kind of stuff. And there was no therapy for that, or somebody burned up in a fire. I think statistically, there were probably more house fires back then based on building codes and things like that. But it was a different breed. He didn't talk about it. And that was,
Suck it up, buttercup.
yeah. And that was emulated to me, not on purpose, but that's what was emulated. And I didn't start going to counseling till the wheels fell off. And I'm in counseling right now. I mean, I have a counseling session every Saturday and every Tuesday night. And, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, and some good friends like you and others who might be listening. So thanks for sharing that. So people hear that other than from me. So how about physical fitness? I mean, you're a very fit person. I think you take all of your health seriously.
I do. It swings, right? So like you ebb and flow, and part of that journey in mental wellness is a lot of us find fitness as a way and an outlet to get some things out that when I get stressed, I go work out. Like it's an outlet. It's a way to reduce the stress load. It allows me to use my body, and that's what I do on a daily basis anyways at work. But I think, as I'm an ACE certified personal trainer. I've set up fitness programs with the department. I've set up, mandatory agility tests within our department. And I firmly believe that we're tactical athletes, and that we should absolutely place a priority on fitness. And I think a lot of first responders do. I think that they do. We should be strong. We should be capable. I follow some social medias and I'm like, you're pretty judgmental here, but I can see where you're coming from with that. But I think we're here if we're going to serve, we need to be able to serve at the highest level and be able to do that.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. Amen to that. Let's talk about the Sheriff app. Let's go back to that a second.
Yeah.
So tell our listeners what the Sheriff app is and what do you have to do with it? Why is a firefighter talking about the Sheriff app?
Man, I fell into the Sheriff app. So the sheriffapp.com is a division or a vertical market underneath OCV LLC. So what we do is we build custom mobile apps for sheriff's offices throughout the country. In the state of Florida alone, we have 36 sheriffs that are clients, from Miami-Dade, Sheriff Rosie, all the way down to smaller counties within the state. And, if you get into the Panhandle, Jefferson County, Washington County, the sheriffs really value communications. They value transparency and providing that information and resources to their community to help them be safe and informed. So at the sheriffapp.com, that's what we do. We build a mobile app that's has the ability to do push notifications to sex offender feeds, inmate searches, kind of a really broad range of resources in a mobile app. So how I fell into it, like Sorry, I didn't take a breath there, John. Did you
No,
did
no,
you have?
no, no. My only follow up would be this: is that the Florida Deputy Sheriff's Association also has an app, and it's
Mhm.
provided by you and your team at Sheriff App. So, to our
Yeah.
listeners, if it's open to anybody, I mean, it's not like we're passing out secret information on our app. It's mainly for our members to get help. There's a
Mhm.
spot to donate, there's a spot to get trauma resources, and then there's just some information we send out. So we're customers, which is how I met you first. So
Yeah.
anyway, now go ahead.
Yeah, Florida Sheriff's Association is a client as well as a customer as well. Your app is wonderful. It's got resources in there to really get help now. So I felt I met the owner. If we go back, it's actually been 8 years, John. I've been working with this company for 8 years. Fire service for 18 in July, and 8 years with the Sheriff app, OCD LLC. But I was at a fire and life safety educator conference, and I think it was my second year attending. And we also have a brand called the firedepartmentapp.com. So you can kind of see like our vertical markets serve specific sectors of public safety. And I met the owner there. We kind of just connected, and he was looking for someone. I guess I asked the right questions. Still to this day we laugh, and it's like I don't know why he came to the smallest educators conference and I happened to be there, but maybe it was God's design and will that I would fall into or not and meet somebody like him. And his name's Eric Halverson. But we just hit it off, and really kind of were looking for ways to, serve, you know, public safety with valuable technology at a cost effective price point that, allows them to reach and keep their citizens safe. So that's really how I fell into it. And, our primary clientele are, I would say are the sheriff's offices, and they're, I have great clients across all brands. So I don't want to say the sheriffs are the best client because I'm a fireman, right? Or I'm a
Yeah.
firefighter. Like, you know, I have wonderful clients in every vertical market, from fire, police, sheriff, emergency management, city, county, just wonderful people trying to serve their community, and really, I guess I don't want to say keep up with technology, but utilize technology that we're using every day. Yeah, so that's kind of how I came about it. They kind of gave me the keys to the proverbial kingdom real quick. I went to a couple
Yeah.
meetings, and studied for about a year with our CRO, and he was like, "Florida's yours. Go forth and conquer." And here we are, over half the sheriffs, deputy sheriff's association, Florida Sheriff's Association. Later, specifically in law enforcement, and that doesn't touch fire or any of the other ones. So
Right, right. And again, for our listeners, Anthony, Pam, our producer, and I, we're all working together. We're about to have a major upgrade to our version of the app is coming. Just stand by for that. So, Anthony, you have an entrepreneur spirit on top of all. You're to me a Renaissance person, but you have an entrepreneur spirit, and you also have openly embraced technology. Tell us about that. What outside the fire service and the sheriff app, what other things do you do?
um so outside of the fire department, outside of work altogether, I like the physical world. So as much as I love technology, if you go back and slide back into that mental health hat, I like the physical world. I like being outside. I like doing physical activities using my body. I like fishing a lot. I always laugh because my wife knows, like, come Thursday or Friday, I'm like, honey, it's time. Like, it's time to unplug and go out where I don't get any cell phone service. I can listen to some music and just float in the water, catch some fish, and those type of things. So outside of all of that, I really enjoy the outdoors and physical activity. I think that you know, outside of that, I've become really passionate about technology, embracing technology, and how we utilize it in public safety, especially with how fast paced things are really changing. We have a real opportunity in public safety to have a very huge impact in streamlining our services, streamlining how we do business, how we create and utilize software and technology. So I've been spending the better part of the past year really exploring artificial intelligence and how it can be applied in public safety, and what some different departments are doing and utilizing it for, or just helping people better understand artificial intelligence, how to use ChatGPT, how to use Claude, how to use it to build things. It's pretty amazing.
And we'll be right back. Every day you put your life on the line to protect and serve. Who's protecting you? United Badges Insurance Services operates as a dedicated resource for the first responder public safety community. Serving thousands of first responders, United Badges offers a wide range of products including commercial insurance, group accident and health insurance, and personal insurance such as auto, home, renters, rental properties, vacation properties, boat, motorcycle, RVs, flood, and umbrella. United Badges serves active and retired public safety personnel, public safety agencies, public safety associations, public safety support businesses, and public safety families and friends. Experience the United Badges difference. Call 800-566-5990 or visit unitedbadges.com to request your free insurance quote today. United Badges Insurance Services is a proud strategic partner of the Florida Deputy Sheriff's Association. Applicants are individually underwritten by each respective insurance carrier and subject to insurance policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states. Promotional material for descriptive purposes only. Now back to the show. Our listeners can't see this, but I'm smiling because we just did, I think, our second or third podcast with now Chief George Pereira from the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office. I think I introduced you to George down at Trump Doral the last time we were down there for a conference. But he is a subject matter expert, a national subject matter expert, and works with IACP, International Association of Chiefs of Police. But he is now their Chief Information Officer. And he came on, we just did a whole segment on AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all those things. Is there a problem that frustrated you enough that you decided to build solutions instead of simply working around them?
I think that I think the problem is there's solutions out there, but I wanted it to be something that, I'll give you a good example. I just built a digital personal accountability board, digital accountability. We call them PARs, personal accountability report. So on every fire, we have to keep tabs of our crews, where they're operating. If we have an engine that's interior on fire attack, they're putting out the fire, and we have to know where they're at. If we have someone the next truck is going in for a search, to search the building for victims, we have to know what they're doing, and so on down the line. And the fire service, we typically have, little plastic, accountability part. We call them PAR tags. We Velcro them, and then we hand them to the chief officer, and then we Velcro that to, a board that says this is where these crews are at. On a recent fire that we had, it was 10,000 square foot commercial facility, and I'd already had this kind of in the works. Actually, it was already complete by the time I did this one. But what I was evaluating was, how are we keeping our crews safe, and where are they at, when they're working on an incident. So I just decided to use Claude to build something, build a piece of technology that I feel I could use in my department to keep my peers safe, but, others could use throughout the country as well, so they could keep their personnel safe as well. So I think for me, it was more of I like the idea that there's enterprise solutions out there, and that there's already some pretty well-built resources, but I wanted to try to see if I could utilize the new technology, the artificial intelligence for, we hear about bad stuff all the time, but man, you can do some amazing things with artificial intelligence with very little skill. Like let's preface this with, I'm just a normal guy. Like, I don't have any coding or engineering background. Right. I do not know how to write code at all.
Yeah. No, and this, I'm going to butcher it, Anthony. The PARs that you created. Now, don't you have a website where you talk about this?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, tell our listeners what that is, if you want.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing that. It's becrewaware.com, BECREW aware, AWARE.com.
Okay.
So yeah, it's there if you're interested in taking a look at it. By all means, take a look at it. It's really in its infancy. I've got some fire departments testing it out. I've been messing with it on my spare time to make sure that everything functions right. But if you're interested and want a demo, I think that, part of it too is I haven't even asked this, but how does law enforcement, track their personnel on an incident? That's even harder because it's individual resources a lot of times too.
Yeah. Well, these days, depending on the agency and their financial situation, is a lot of the radios have GPS, like the portable radios that's on an officer's hip or on his or her chest, that where they carry them completely different now these days. Each one of those has a GPS, and then usually the body worn cameras now are becoming GPS enabled, and
Okay.
then the patrol cars are GPS enabled. But listen, that doesn't mean you don't need more overlap, right?
Yeah.
So to your point, if you're in an active shooter where the building's on fire and there's an overlap, who's watching? And this goes to the whole ICS incident command system,
Hmm.
where there's fire resources, law enforcement resources deployed in an incident, and somebody in the command chain for both organizations has to talk and share. Here's where we are. Here's what we're doing. So
Yeah, I
that's
think
great.
traditionally, like I know in our agency in partnering, with the sheriff's office here in the county, which I did work for a while. Did you know that, John? Did I tell
I
you?
didn't.
I
No,
think
no, no. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Citrus County Fire Rescue was formerly Citrus. So when I started, it was Citrus County Fire, but then it became Citrus Sheriff Fire Rescue for about 5 years, and then slid back to Citrus County Fire Rescue. But in working alongside those, I think what I found is, the fire service is rooted in the ICS system. Like that's how we function and operate every day. So it was cool because like the sheriff's office and law enforcement fell in line, and we could all help keep each other accountable and track each other that way, working really closely together.
Yeah, and I'll catch some ribbing too about, having a firefighter on here, but that's who cares? It's just, you know, we tease each other. But you're right. We've learned a lot from what you guys did, especially with incident command, because we sometimes would just deploy and at one point you'd have a Sharpie, not a Sharpie, a magic eraser, a dry erase marker, and you'd write on your patrol car. You'd find, depending if your car was white or blue, you'd find a place on your car that was clean, and you'd start writing where people were.
Yeah.
And then that grew into us having command vehicles, and then somebody's like, "Hey, we should do ICS." I think that really came on board after 9/11 as well. What other things with technology that are you seeing, that are you exploring or see that could be better?
AI, everybody's scared, because it's gonna replace jobs. I gave the air quotes there for the listeners that aren't gonna see this in video, but man, I think that at the end of the day, someone's still got to control, and utilize it. Robots can't feel, robots can't do some of the any of the things really humans can do. So there has to be inputs. So I would just really encourage people, to get out and utilize it, try it, get in and just chat with it. Are you preparing for an interview? I've set up a GPT that's is helping me mentor. Like so, let's jump into mentorship, leadership, raising the next. If it goes back to what keeps me passionate, the new guys on the truck, the 20-year-olds that are closer in age to my son than me, keep me
Yeah.
passionate. But you know, I was one day I was like, okay, let's set up a mentorship and leadership GPT within chat. Let's set it up so that it can interview me and prepare me for, an upcoming promotional opportunity. Let me set it up so that, you know, I can create, written tests for people, not just myself. I've actually used this for one of my last firefighters who is now on the out of class list in our department. So he rides up in as a driver engineer now, but and to help prepare, like let's create tests, and these systems are really good at analyzing data and providing you, information about it. It's also really good about, if you input, it'll output. You know, I put in all of our policies, and I would say like, hey, make sure you're taking out anything that has got a name. Any HIPAA, like take everything out. I took out all of my agency identifiers and just put policies in.
Yeah.
But then it was creating tests for me so that I could pass it to my firefighter and say, here, take this. This will allow us to see how well prepared you are based off of policy, union contract, law, human resources items as well, our county handbook and things like that. So I think that's what I would really like technology wise. Like I could keep going down rabbit holes of other softwares that I'm creating that aren't quite ready yet. I'm not quite ready to to talk about, only
Okay.
because I'm finishing, but they're coming. Like I'm really close to a few other ones that are just gonna, like, the next one like uh, is really gonna make a deputy's life easier. When they're researching certain things in the road on the road.
Then
So
we'll
that's
have you
that's
back when you're ready. How about that? We'll have you come
oh,
back
I'd
and
love
talk about
to.
that. But staying on a like ChatGPT or Claude. So
Hmm.
again, my conversation with Chief Pereira, there's a lot of really good things, and then we also talked about a lot of just like utterly terrifying things as
Yes.
well. But for me, where I'm at in my life, I use ChatGPT a lot. It's what we used to have was the encyclopedia. So
Hmm.
I go there a lot and I get information and I pull the Ronald Reagan where you trust but verify. You go to different sources to verify things, and then I have a friend and she uses Claude a lot, and we sometimes talk about the differences because I haven't gotten in that realm yet. I do a lot with ChatGPT though, so I find it fascinating. I find it also sometimes it's I mean you really got to verify it, but it's also can give you some really good information. So you're
I
right. The
think
best way to learn it is to start using it. Go ahead.
get in and ask it a question. Ask it to teach you how to use it. Did the
Yeah.
chief say what the number one use for Chat GPT is?
No, I didn't ask him.
Do you
What is it?
remember? I think, well, I don't know if it's the number one thing, but actually, and I don't know that I totally agree with this use case, but it's actually people are using it as a therapist.
Oh, I see that. I
And
use it as a
yeah,
therapist.
and I mean, to ask ideas, like, but I like what you really pointed out was trust but verify. Everything we do in the world is trust but verify. Technology should be no different. These Claude. I started with ChatGPT. I use Claude more now, but there's also Perplexity. There's also a lot of other platforms. Perplexity is really good about research. Notebook LM is another one that you can actually go in, and that's a really good one. That's a Google product, but you can go in and you can make different notebooks and things like that. And for study materials, it'll allow you to ingest all your policies, and it'll create a podcast for you.
That's fascinating.
Uh, it's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I had guys in paramedic school right now that are using it to study the drugs, the narcotics that we have to learn to dose. And I sat and listened to one for, like, it was like a 3-minute podcast. And I was like, I wish I would have had this, 10 years ago when I went to paramedic school.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, going back to ChatGPT too, it's only as good as what you put in it. So when I'm asking it certain questions, I'll try to validate and go, is this clinically sound? Is what we're talking about is what you're giving me clinically sound? Can you reference this back to a source and verify the source? And then I'll take that and I'll go verify it, and then I'll come back and then go from
Yeah.
there.
Always ask it to cite where it gets things from.
Yeah.
And if it can't provide that, then I wouldn't trust it. So,
Let's
um,
jump into leadership for a few minutes before we have to leave. How many firefighters do you lead?
so my crew at my station is 5 total. Up to, at one point, I had 2 other ambulances underneath me. So at one point, I had about 9 people, within my station that were responding to calls that I oversaw. When I was acting as a battalion and I'm acting as a battalion chief, that number jumps to 5 stations with 5 people. So it could be 25, maybe a little bit more than that
Yeah,
on
it's
any
it's a
given day.
big span of control for an emergency job, right?
Hmm. Yes.
So, what leadership lessons from the firehouse have made you a better entrepreneur, or a better husband, or a better father?
Ooh, that's a deep one, John.
I know.
I think it goes 2 ways, honestly. I think, and you were in leadership roles, being a good father at home, or, nobody gives you a book in life and says, this is going to get you from point A to point B in the the smoothest possible way. So you're always learning and evaluating and trying to figure out, what the best path is. Sometimes I feel like at work I'm a dad. Sometimes I spend a lot of time, and maybe that sounds wrong. I don't. I think
It doesn't sound wrong. Yeah.
I spend a lot of time trying to learn about who I'm working with, because if I spend time to understand them, I can recognize things that may roll over from home. And you might get to that point where you show up to work and it's a bad day and you're messing things up. And I've been there, done that, and ended up in a chief's office and having a conversation about what the heck my day looked like and why I did some things. But if I understand, my crew, and I treat everybody, as family, because at the end of the day, they're my work family every third day. I spend a
Yeah.
third of my life away from my family. So really, when I'm looking at, work and life, it kind of it just blends a lot, with how I handle both, and exploring what makes them passionate for trying to find the why in their life. And if, sometimes I run into situations where people don't even want to be there. Sometimes, this is a means to making money right now, but the fire service or public safety as a whole, or it's switching from fire to police or fire to sheriff. I had a firefighter that I worked with, and he's like, "Man, I think I want to be a sheriff's deputy." I was like, "You're crazy." What? No, I'm just kidding. For everybody out there, like I have a lot of friends that are in law enforcement, but I was like, he's like, my dad was a detective, and he's like, if I don't try it, I feel like I would miss out on some things in life. And I said, man, then go get it, go get
Yeah.
after it, try it, and if you like it, stick with it. He's still a sheriff's deputy to this day.
Yeah. Let me jump in for a technical. For a second, you had a Wi-Fi interruption, and you were talking about, you spend a third of your life away from home. And let's stay on that for a second. Like for me, when my dad was gone, that's when all the bad things happened. As a child of a firefighter, you got stitches, you broke a bone, somebody died, you got a virus when dad was on duty. And it's got to be the
Yes.
same for you, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the other day my wife called and was like, "Hey, I think the septic system needs to be pumped out." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh gosh, like I'm like 8 hours into my shift. We'll figure something out."
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing we were talking about is family, right? So,
Hmm.
like you, even today, the people I work with, they are my family. The
Yeah.
people at FTSA, the staff that nobody will ever see, they'll never be on the podcast. Their name will never be on a website. Well, their name's on a website, but nobody will be able to bring their story to life. They're family. And right
Hmm.
here at our podcast is produced by Fiore Communications in Tallahassee. Their family, everybody that works here, I try to interact with because I wouldn't be here without them. And you're saying the same thing with your firefighters, your paramedics, and the lieutenants and stuff that report to you.
I'm only as good as the people around me. I'm
Yeah,
only as good as my family, as far as they lift me up. You know, like I wouldn't be anything without them.
yeah,
You
I'm
know,
with you.
with
Any success I've had in life has been part of a team, and even to this day,
Mhm.
frankly, this podcast would probably be an abomination without some of the wonderful people here. Specifically Pam and Dave, and then the folks that post it and edit it and clean up my ums and ahs, and they'll clean up the airplanes where you are today.
Dude, I was like, I'm gonna sit outside. It's nice, and then I realized that the birds are chirping, the planes are flying.
Nah, it's okay. It's life,
Uh,
right? And that's what we
It
live in. We
is.
live in a real authentic life. Let me ask you one more question about leadership. In your view, Anthony, based on your life experience, what qualities make a great public safety leader today?
I think everybody at every level in every organization has the ability to be a leader. You don't have to be a captain. You don't have to be a sergeant. You don't have to be a lieutenant. I think from the bottom up and the top down, we can all be leaders. I think willing to embrace a service mindset is really important in leadership, because we are here to serve. When for me, when the tones drop, it starts before that in the fire station. When I show up as a supervisor, my job is to serve and lead my crew. But when those tones drop, having that service mindset of going out and doing what's Phil Royal, the right thing for the right reason at the right time.
Yeah.
That was his saying when he was running for sheriff and when he worked for the sheriff's office here. And after he passed, I lived my life like that. Like it was, I'm going to go out and do the best I can for the right reasons at the right time and treat everybody uh, like family. I tell people, hey, I'm here as a professional to help you. I'm also here and evaluating this, from that family perspective as well. How would I want my grandmother? How would I want my mother, my brother, my children, my wife to be treated in this situation? And what kind of help can we get them to get to where they need to go? So I think one of the most important things in leadership is service, that service mindset. And there's a lot of other things that can really come along with that. I think, having a lot of understanding, grace, being able to forgive and move on. I think some of those things are the most important things to think about it too, in leadership as well, because people mess up, and it's a lot of times it's not intentional. They're trying to do the right thing. We're ordinary people put in extraordinary situations.
Yeah.
Every day, and
It's the human race. I mean, we're flawed. And hey, look, yours truly is probably one of the most flawed people you'll ever meet, but people have given me grace. And, you get back in the ring the next day.
Yeah.
A couple of rapid fire questions for you. Okay. You've already talked about some books. What would you say one of your best leadership books is that you've read, or one of the most important leadership books that's influenced you?
Let's see. So I just picked this one up. It's called Supervisor, Manager, Leader: The Basics of Being a Boss by Mike Kraus. It's Kraus. I just got that actually at a conference 2 weeks ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
That one spells out, hey, how can you be a good supervisor? How can you be a good manager? And that all of these things stack up to being, a great leader. It's a little more fire service based, but I think, it's applicable across public safety, no matter how you look at it.
I think you kind of already answered this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What's the best piece of advice you've received in your work realm? Was it from Phil? I mean, was it?
We could spend a whole lot of time on Phil. And I think, that quote, doing the right things for the right reasons at the right time, was probably one of the best pieces of advice. And it wasn't even presented as advice. It was just it was presented as a way of service, and more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last question for you. What's one message you'd like to leave with the men and women serving in public safety today?
I think that, I would leave them with a message, and I would say I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for stepping up in a time that is challenging, is very polarizing, and serving your community, and doing so with compassion, and dig deep and think about the why you got back into it. If you're 18 years, 20 years, 30 years into this career, and you've built up, thick skin because of the things that we've seen, don't be afraid to go talk to the therapist. Dr. Kaler, who you've had on here, I've got to have quality conversations with her. She told me, she goes, Anthony, it's usually 10 years to the couch. I guess you're an overachiever and you made it 17. And I don't want to be an overachiever in that realm, because I didn't achieve anything. I broke. And now I'm on a path to getting better, getting better. I'm on a path like you, John, like a lot of us are. We're on a path. We have good days. We have bad days. So, be compassionate, serve with an open mind, and, take care of yourself so you can enjoy retirement, so you can enjoy your family and those things.
Yeah, because one day you're going to answer your last call, and you're going to go home to your family who've been waiting on you, and it needs to matter,
Be present. Like someone said the other day, and they were like, I focused so much on my career, I didn't pay attention to what was in front of me.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I blew it. I mean, I'm candid. I think I'm a pretty good dad now. I was not a good husband. I don't know that I would be a good partner in the future, because I'm still a mess, but we're trying to figure things out. But what you just said, that piece of advice about I'm proud of you, you kind of took my breath away with that, right? Because that's something we don't hear. And for me personally, I'm about to be 56, and, my kids are grown, and I'm, single again. I don't hear I'm proud of you. I would do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So that's a great piece of advice, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as we're closing out, Anthony, for our listeners, this is a real podcast. It's authentic. I'm not the only person that gets choked up here sometimes. For our listeners, if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, email us at podcast@fldeputyssheriffs.org. podcast at fldeputyssheriffs.org. Anthony, if somebody wants to get a hold of you about you as an individual, your entrepreneurship, your leadership, how you speak, in public groups, or your sheriff app, the other things, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's theanthonyseguin.com. You can find me there. You can find me as Anthony Seguin on LinkedIn. That's probably my most open social media. Facebook's pretty locked down, and Instagram, I don't post anything work related there. But I would say theanthonyseguin.com, LinkedIn, Anthony Seguin. And if you want to learn about the Sheriff app, if you want to learn about Responder Athlete, or any of the things that we do technology-wise with the sherifapp.com, it's A Seguin, so Alpha, Sierra, Echo, Golf, Unicorn, Igloo, Nancy, at thesherifapp.com. And that's a fire guy spitting that stuff out. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Unicorn. I haven't heard that one. That's good.
I love that one.
Yeah.
No one expects it.
No, I didn't. If you don't know Anthony, how tall are you, man? Because you're a towering guy. You make me look like a kid. So to hear a big guy like you say unicorn,
I'm 6'7".
Yeah.
6'7", 260, and just a ball of fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, listeners, thank you. And again, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, email us at podcast@fldeputyssheriffs.org. Thank you for listening to The Tactical Pause, the official podcast of the Florida Deputy Sheriffs Association. FDSA proudly serves over 25,000 deputy sheriffs across the state with legal benefits, vital training, and financial assistance in times of need. You can listen to previous episodes at fldeputyssheriffs.org or wherever you get your podcasts. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave us a review and encourage your friends, coworkers, and those in the law enforcement community to listen as well. To learn more about the Florida Deputy Sheriffs Association and how we serve those who serve, visit our website at fldeputyssheriffs.org.